Here. And Jeremiah Carlson,
I'm here.
John Donovan,
Here.
Morgan Kuntz, or Kuntz. Morgan, I saw you come on. Can you hear us?
Sorry, I'm here.
Oh,
Took a little bit for your mic to kick in.
Okay.
thank you. Kelly Mitchell,
Here.
Nathan Reitz was unable to attend today. He sent me an email, and Ken Sass.
Here.
And that is everybody, Kelly.
Great. So I am the one who put together the agenda so that we would have a few things. And because DOC is tasked with supporting this committee, Don Click, who has reached out to each of you, he'll be our administrative support for the committee, and he knows all things. So, I mean, if you ever have any questions, like he can please reach out to him. He can answer them. He can get it to me if I'm the one that needs to answer it. But he's here for you guys. We also don't have a chair or a vice chair. That's on one of our responsibilities once we get all the appointments will be to elect a chair and a vice chair. So start thinking about that. But my thinking for today, especially since it's not a committee where we can do business, is number one, it'd be great if just at least we introduced ourselves and just told each other a little bit about who we are. And then my thought was we could just kind of look at the statute and start to think about the things that we're tasked to do. And so I'd love to get your feedback on what I can do to get ahead of that and start to pull together information or people that we'd want to hear from, talk to, that sort of thing. So I can get that rolling a little bit, and then we can, when the full committee is together, we'll make some real decisions about how we're going to work and function and all of that stuff.
Kelly,
So, yeah.
1 minute. Ashley Sturts Griffith
Yeah.
has jumped on, and she was one of the appointees that we found out about today from the Senate.
Excellent.
So I'm going to make her a panelist. Ashley, I've got you on and you can unmute. Can you hear us? Ashley, I see you joined by phone, so try unmuting yourself again.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I will try to figure this out. It's my first time using WebEx, but thank you all. I'm so thankful to be here, and I'm just going to figure out if I'm talking through my phone or my computer right now. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
That's excellent. Thanks, Ashley. We were just saying we're just going to go around the room and do introductions first of all. So if you wanted to start, you could, but if that's not convenient right now, we can hold off.
Oh, I can do that. Yeah, so my name is Ashley Stewart Griffith, and I am the Advocacy, Medical Forensic, and Prevention Programs Manager at MNCOSA, which is the Minnesota Coalition Against Sexual Assault, and we are a membership organization mostly made up of rape crisis centers across the state. And so we are the collective voice of those rape crisis centers.
Excellent. And if everybody knows what position on the task force that you're holding, that would also be helpful. So I think Ashley is in the victim services position. Is that correct?
Yep, I am, yes, the victim services appointed by the Senate Majority Leader, I believe. That is what I am.
All right. How about we just stay online, Jeremiah?
Yeah, Jeremiah Carlson, currently a detective with Anoka County's Criminal Investigation Division with their major crimes. Specifically, I believe my appointed party is going to be from the Minnesota Sheriff's Association in holding position where a peace officer with experience in shooting investigations.
Excellent. Thanks. Morgan.
Hey, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So I'm Morgan Coons. I'm the Criminal Division Director at the Hennepin County Attorney's Office, and I am one of the county attorney appointed positions. Really looking forward to working with everyone.
Great. Now I forgot your names already.
Ken Sass, I'm the State Gang and Drug Coordinator, which makes me number 4, the coordinator of the CCC.
Okay, gotcha.
I'm John Donovan. I'm with the Appellate Public Defender's Office. I'm the State Public Defender's appointee.
Okay. I'm Shane Baker. I'm the Candiac County Attorney. I would be the outstate or outside 7 county metro area appointee of the County Attorney Association.
Great. And I think not everybody was on. So I'm Kelly Mitchell. I'm Assistant Commissioner of Community Services and Reentry. So I'm the commissioner's designee on this body, and it just so happens I'm also the chair of the Sentencing Guidelines Commission. So I think that might be why he asked me to do this one. So that's me. Did we get everybody?
That is everybody.
Great, great. All right, so I thought we could just quickly run through the statute and just look at the deliverables part of it. We don't have to look at the positions part of it. We can kind of skip down to the deliverables. And just kind of as we go, I thought we could maybe talk through a little bit if any ideas jump out at you for places to get information, what would be helpful to you as task force members as we start to dig into this stuff. So how about if we review it first and then we can kind of go back and I'll be looking for your thoughts. So what I can do just to make sure everybody's looking at the same thing is try to share my screen. It's always an adventure when you try to do that, right? Share screen. Should be coming up soon.
I don't know why the self-use not showing.
Oh, so it's just not showing up there, but is
Yeah.
it showing online for other
It
folks?
is showing online.
Okay, all right, great. So, all right, you guys in the room, you do have it. So, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna skip down to duties, which starts at the bottom of the second page. So it's subdivision 5 duties. There we go. There we go. All right, so let's just kind of really let's just look through this. So the first thing these are all the things that we're supposed to look at. Maybe actually, let me go up. I shouldn't have skipped over everything. First of all, I think it is important to realize the term mandatory minimum was defined on the first page. So the way it's defined, I don't know if this makes a difference or not. I'll have to think about that, but it says legislatively defined predetermined sentencing requirements, including but not limited to sentencing requirements under statutes 152.01, 152.022, and 60911 that mandate a period of commitment to the Commissioner of Corrections upon conviction for certain offenses. One of our members is Nate Wrights, who's the director of the Sentencing Guidelines Commission, and I know that the sentencing guidelines do think about some of these sentences differently. So I'm curious if that was the dividing line. There's some sentences that are, I can't remember the term that they use now. presumptive
Oh, yeah.
Presumptive commit.
terms, like it's like a,
Mhm.
like the statute presumes a term as opposed to making it a mandatory term. So that might be the dividing line that this is trying to get at. But I'm gonna let Nate tell us about that in the future. All right, any comments there? Okay. All right, so now we'll go down to subdivision 5, which is our duties. So we are supposed to collect and analyze data on charges, convictions, and sentences that involve mandatory minimum sentences. So these are all the things we kind of have to look at under the statute. Collect and analyze data on mandatory minimum sentences in which a person received a mitigated durational departure because the mandatory minimum was seen as inappropriate by a judge or a county attorney or both. That language seems a little hard to get at, knowing what the reason was that a durational departure might have occurred. Collect and analyze data on mandatory minimum sentences in which a person likely would have received a mitigated durational departure, but for the enforcement of a mandatory minimum.
That seems like it'd be the hardest one to
Yeah.
figure out without reviewing a transcript of every case.
Right, right. So these are going to be our challenges, I think, is like how to get at some of these concepts, how to at least meet the spirit of the question that seems to be asked here. When do those situations occur that we maybe wouldn't want a mandatory minimum imposed, but it is being imposed because the law requires it to be? Maybe that's, so we'll have to think about that. Number 4, collect and analyze data on charges, convictions, and sentences for co-defendants of persons sentenced to a mandatory minimum. So again, co-defendants, probably not coded in any database. So a little hard there. 5 is review relevant statutes and state and federal court decisions. We will have an expert on sentencing laws as part of our task force, so we'll just make him do it. Receive input from persons who were convicted of a crime with a mandatory minimum sentence. These are all, the next ones are all the input parts. Receive input from family members of persons who were convicted of a crime with the mandatory minimum sentence. Receive input from persons who were victims of crimes with a mandatory minimum sentence. And receive input from family members of persons who were victims of crimes with a mandatory minimum sentence. So we'll have to think about how to go about doing that. And then number 10, analyze the benefits and unintended consequences of state statutes and practices related to the charging, convicting, and sentencing of persons of crimes with mandatory minimums, including but not limited to an analysis of whether current statutes and practices promote public safety, properly punish a person for their role in the offense, make recommendations for legislative action. Oh, that's it there. And then make recommendations for legislative action, if any, on laws affecting the collection and reporting of data, the charging, convicting, and sentencing of persons for crimes with mandatory minimum sentences. So not much to do, right?
And there's no time frame.
We
of the
are
data?
the time frame of the data we have to look at.
Yes.
No, that's
Specified? I
no.
didn't see it.
But that's a good question. I think that we'll want to think about that.
Sub 6 has the report date, so that's in some ways a timeline.
I mean, how far back?
Oh, sorry.
10 years?
Well, it's interesting because, for instance, certainly we can get the sentencing guidelines data back 10 years and probably not with much difficulty.
Yeah.
When we look at charging and other, if we go beyond that data,
Yeah.
then that's, I think, maybe where a challenge comes in. But so you're looking for trends, is what I'm hearing.
Well, it would be nice, but I don't know what the proper time frame that would be.
Mhm.
And then who's gonna analyze it and how are we gonna get it?
What other, what else is triggered for folks here? Triggered meaning like, what are your thoughts when you look at this? I'm trying to now stop sharing. How do I stop sharing?
I was curious why they didn't mention dispositional departures.
There we go, stop.
Because that's something I would see more commonly in my job as prosecutor is where the court might respond with the same duration of sentence, but stay the sentence as opposed to execute or, but that's where also then relate to that is the type of crime raises different issues. There's the felon in possession gun charges where there's statutes that allow at least in the first time, but not the second time. So it's more of a harder mandatory. Second degree assault is solely statutory, but so that would operate a little differently. And then the drug ones, I mean, those have kind of wide range, and then those almost have the hard durationals attached to those, as opposed to a second degree assault. And the gun ones too, they don't have those hard durationals beyond the one number. Because you have a mandatory minimum, a lot of the drug ones that are well below what the guidelines grid shows.
Yeah. So a couple of things I'm hearing from you. We do sort of need to understand the different nature of the different types of mandatory minimums, because some have like that relief valve and some don't, right?
Yeah.
And then, and sort of when they apply and when they don't, that we would want to we want data on dispositional departures as well as durational, even though it says durational, because both things are happening.
Yeah, I think that maybe the focus on durational is just because we're looking at the sentence length and not how much time is hanging over their head. I guess on why they were looking at durational. Not the dispositional don't matter, but that would seem like the reason why they're pushing for that. So,
but it seems to miss almost like the big issue.
Yeah.
You know, as what's going on in those, as opposed to the.
I think the big issue is, are these sentence lengths appropriate?
Well, there's that, and then as another research point would also be other programs like challenge incarceration, or when do they come into play on some of these charges? Because we've had that with a felon in possession of firearm, just went through that, and that shortened that person's sentence significantly. So there you had a durational sentence imposed, but it in fact didn't operate that way.
Not all defendants are the same.
Right.
It just seems like analyzing data. I don't know, where is the place to remember that not all defendants are equal?
Mhm.
We're looking at it.
And I think that the input is probably designed to make sure we're just not looking at data, too, the input from people, impacted people. I think Morgan's had his hand up for a while.
Oh.
Go ahead, Morgan.
Yeah, hey, sorry I can't be there in person. I just got out of the Boundary Waters, so kind of a busy time of year. Great discussion. I agree. Interesting topics. A couple other things that I was sort of thinking about that might be interesting for us to look at would be the historical record of how we got here. Because I know the mandatory minimum laws in Minnesota have developed over time, through the 90s and into the 2000s. And so obviously where we're at now is really important, but where we came from and the changes that were made in the past, I think would be interesting to look at. And then, I'm more familiar with Wisconsin's laws, but I would be interested in looking at some of our neighboring states' laws and how they deal with issues around mandatory minimums. And obviously we're going to do our own thing here in Minnesota, but it's good to sort of know how other people deal with this issue. And then the data analysis piece is something that I do a lot of work with and I'm very interested in. And so I have a lot of ideas on what we could do with the data analysis. And maybe what I can do is write some of those down and put something together in writing for a future meeting. But those are my 3 ideas. Thanks a lot.
I'm coming back to that number 3 idea where I don't know how we're going to figure out what the judge or any of the parties would likely have done if but for these laws without questioning those judges or any other players. But if it was looking at data, one way that we could look at that is criminal history points. And I'm thinking that probably is most seen with the gun felon possession, because that's always 60 months, but that's basically the equivalent of having 6 points. So almost like seeing where the departure rates go along the spectrum 0 to the 6. Or just even the mandatory sentences, because you could still be as low as I think the 1 or 2 points and get that if that's your only other crime. Because that one's going to be tough. That's so subjective, and that's really not even speaking with the victims or other family members. That's not probably going to even share that. Because it's also, I'll just speak as a prosecutor. If you see, oh, this is the law, well, we can't change that, or a judge is thinking that we can't really change that. It's almost like your thinking stops there. You're not envisioning the world. What would I do if I was left to my own devices? Yeah. So how are you going to find that answer to that particular question?
Yeah, and one thing I will say is that Sentencing Guidelines Commission has been in the midst of a comprehensive review of the guidelines for the past 6 months or so, a little bit longer. And so some of these places with mandatory minimums have the highest departure rates. And we did engage a researcher to do some interviews to get us more information on those, like why those departures were happening. And so we have some prosecutors, defense attorneys, input from them. Weren't able to talk to judges, but we have some input to kind of give us more about like what's going on in an assault 2 case. Like what are the situations where you would say, let's do a departure. So, we can certainly share that information with this group as well. What we found, we didn't do all the mandatory minimums, but we did some. We were focused on high departure rate offenses. And why is it, if it's over 50%, it's a coin flip, it's not a guideline sentence. So why is it happening in those cases?
And one thing to keep in mind why it's so important, which crime is, like I'll use second-degree assault. There are available alternatives offenses that can fit. Like second-degree assault, you could easily amend that or have the plea to be to a threats of violence. So that removes it from the mandatory and it moves it 2 spots lower on the grid. And that's how we, instead of having a second degree with a departure, we would do it as a threats of violence with no departure. So, but some counties might do the departure. So how does that come into play? That's one thing. And drugs, you could do that with a number of those too. You can slide down the scale based on weight or possession, those things. Felon possession of a gun, there is no alternative.
Yeah.
It's kind of, that one's a real all or nothing kind of thing. And when I suggested points on that one, that would be more speculative. But if you saw departure rates either higher with lower points, or that might have been the situation they would have departed but for, because maybe they're not doing that at 5 points, but if it's a very low score, they might have wanted to do it there.
So what, we don't have to stay forever today, but.
I think we have a hand.
Oh, is there a hand? Oh yeah, Ashley, go ahead. Not yet. Keep talking. Try again.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. One thing I was noticing in the charge of the group, and maybe it's in there, but I know that one of the things that comes up a lot with this conversation is the disparities for folks of color compared to white folks who are experiencing mandatory minimums. And with there was a national paper that came out some time ago, but it really did look at how defendants who were white were much likely to have a lesser sentence than those who identified as Black or Hispanic. And I'm just wondering if like we could include that information as we're collecting the data. It seems to be just like a really key point to this discussion is the disparities.
I think the sentencing guidelines has pretty good detailed. I don't know if it answers all the needs we have, but that's my memory of looking at their data. It's a lot of,
Yeah.
I mean, jurisdiction, county, race, well, ethnicity, because that would include the Latino population, but might encompass a lot of that. And that they would at least have that data as a place to get it, to see some of those things.
Yeah, yeah, definitely that's the conviction data. And the question is if we go back and try to get charging data and get something earlier, well, we would have to see what we can get there. But I'm hearing you'd be asking for a similar breakdown. So we'd have to see if the courts would give us that as well. That's
Yeah,
great
and
point.
I also was wondering too with the definitions, some folks in the sex offense world view the, I don't know if we want to open up this can of worms, but if that was the intent, do view like the predatory offender registry or the civil commitment is also a mandatory minimum. And I guess I just wanted to bring that to the group if that's something that we're also looking at or if we're focusing like on other sentences, I guess, or for lack of a better word.
So the failure to register as an offense has a mandatory minimum attached to it, or maybe two even.
Yeah, the
depending
first
on
time
the
offense is a year and a day, and the second one is, I think, 2 years, 2 days.
So for sure, that's under the umbrella. And then I think that's where those presumptive sentences are for criminal sexual conduct. But I can't remember. We'll have to, we'll definitely, we'll be pulling together the list, right? We'll get some research to pull together the list of what we think is in the universe. And then the committee can look at it and then decide and talk more about, are we missing something? Is there an angle here that we should be talking about that isn't represented on this grouping? How's that?
Yeah. You've been asking about data collection, and things I've raised thus far, and seems like we could get data, but 6 through 9, the receive input from these persons and those persons and these other persons, I don't know what the best route for that is. It's not so much I have an answer, but it's a significant part of the duties on our list, and so we need to figure that out. It's family members of victims, it's victims, it's and those and then flip side, those convicted and family members of those convicted.
Looks like Ashley raised her hand immediately. She must have ideas.
Oh, yeah. And it might not be as expansive as we need, but I'm thinking with folks who, if we're thinking about sexual assault, mandatory minimums are people who have committed more than one criminal sexual conduct or committed it with a weapon, assuming those folks are in prison or on the registry or off the registry at this point. And I'm trying to think, like, if we're looking at the more like immediate, I would think that, like, I have work with victim advocates at the Department of Corrections who may be in touch with families or victims who would like the chance to share. So I feel like that's like one pretty like a way that we could access folks. Of course, I don't know how diverse that pool would be, but that's just one way I'm thinking of being in touch with those folks.
Yeah, so I think we'll want to talk about like how formal, informal do we want that to be? Because we can invite people to a meeting. We could have some interviews done with individuals. I think there's a lot of different ways that we could think about receiving input. You can do the full-blown public hearing. It's like there's many options. Do we have them come to us? Do we go to them? Sort of thing. So I'd say just start thinking about, from your perspective, what do you think would provide meaningful input, and then we can put that on as an early agenda item so that we can figure out the best approach, and it'll take a while to get that input. So I think we'll want to tackle that one pretty early on for sure.
I think the other thing on just getting the input from people too is for the people who are convicted and their family members, that's going to be a wider pool because felon in possession won't have a victim.
Yeah.
And so it's sort of, making sure we get both pieces of that for both mandatory minimums for crimes with victims and just sort of felon in possession, or probably the drug possession as well.
Yeah. Okay. Good point. Is there anything that anyone can think of right off the bat that would be really helpful as we come into our first meeting where we have everybody present? That might be something good that we should, or something that you think would be a good idea for us to for sure have on the table that day or access to as we're kicking this thing off.
Just being really nice to the guidelines committee, because I think we're going to get a lot
Yes.
of our data from
Yes.
them. So let's stay on their good side.
We may have people that aren't familiar with what crimes, so maybe
Yeah.
what crimes and the mandatory minimums.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, that's what I was thinking, kind of all the kinds of things I mean, each one of us has started naming, well, this one applies, this one applies, and actually having that, that large list, and then for the full groups, like, are we missing any? We could have that, and then we can even then look at how do some of these questions have differences depending on the crime,
Yeah.
which then might lead to these other, how do we go about getting data on those issues, or what do we want to look at?
I could imagine that not everybody might know the intersection with the guidelines and how that works. So
Yep.
we could do a little bit of explanation on that front too, how you get to the sentence. Just so
Yeah.
everybody's on the same page there. Anything else? Oh, Ashley, yeah.
I also, and maybe this is in number 4, but I almost feel like this is kind of like anecdotal information. I feel like when I've talked to my colleagues and they've talked about their experiences with victim survivors, that there is kind of can be like from defense attorneys this laser focus on the mandatory minimum and wanting to avoid that, and totally understand that from a defense attorney perspective. So I guess my overall question is like how are these affecting plea deals, and is that part of the conversation that we're looking to have, and like would that be conversations with defense attorneys or prosecutors too, and like what, maybe that's not even like so much of like a data question, but just like how do people like represent their clients, or how do they represent the state differently with mandatory minimums in place?
It's a good question. It's probably true on both sides actually, like how does the presence of a mandatory minimum change how you work with this case and argue your side, whether you're the prosecutor or the defense attorney? And then I hear you saying specifically, how do you explain it to the client and victims, and what you're going to argue for or against, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it really can just work both ways as well, in that, hey, if there's multiple charges, there's room for negotiation here. In the cases that are just felon in possession, if there's a mandatory, but what's the negotiation? Why not try a trial? Because there's nothing to get out of it, so.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think there's, I really agree with that. And I think there's some data ways we can look at that. So for example, trial settings in PPIP cases as compared to trial settings in other cases. Because in my experience as a prosecutor, the mandatory minimum sentence is really the driver of all the negotiations. And looking at our Hennepin County data, we get way more trial settings in those cases because defendants have a lot to lose. 60 months is a big sentence. And so I think time to disposition, number of trial settings, I think all that stuff has a big impact on the outcome of cases. So I think this sort of subjective, talk to prosecutors, talk to defense attorneys, how does it impact them? But I think there's data views on that same question.
Okay. One thing I'm really excited about is that we have till next August. It sounds like a long time. It's not going to be a long time, but it's better than the normal turn it in February timeline.
Okay. Oh.
We actually have a shot at doing this well. So, everyone is bringing up a lot of really good points. I appreciate that input. It's given me a lot of ideas for things that we could start to get in motion. What am I not asking? It's okay. Well, if it's not coming to you now, it will come to you as we get rolling.
Sorry, I was just,
go ahead.
Yeah, when we were talking before about the data points, one of the ones that we thought, and I agree, might be difficult to look at is the co-defendants, outcomes in co-defendants cases. Yeah. MnCIS does have a related case field, and they indicate co-defendants in that field and indicate their companion cases is, I think, the terminology. And so I think we maybe can leverage some court data to look at co-defendants. And then to the county attorney's point as well about analyzing departure rates. I think one thing that we could maybe do is look at the data for similarly situated defendants, and in terms of criminal history points, age, offense, other factors, and then sort of analyze who gets departures and who doesn't. So I think there might be data views, like I was saying, that we could use to get at some of these questions.
Sounds good. All right. Well, I think that's great. I think that's a great start for today. Why don't we go ahead? I was just going to ask Don to just really quickly review the vacancies and where we're at with that. So, Don, you mind giving us an update?
Yes. So there are 14 members on the task force, and we currently have 4 that are not appointed yet. I also have 2 that are tentatively appointed that I'm just waiting on confirmation. So we are about halfway there at this point.
All right. And I think that all of the ones that are not appointed yet are direct appointments where it's an association that has a role in that. So I had come in here thinking maybe we would have to do some, maybe I would have to set you guys on a task of trying to get people interested, but I don't think we will. I don't think we'll have to do that because we're just reaching out to those organizations just to remind them and ask them to work on those appointments. Next meeting date. So theoretically, we should be meeting monthly unless we decide to meet less frequently. I think it might be a good idea just to set a date for next month so that we have something. And then as people come on, we can pull them in. And then once we have a quorum, we can set the regular cadence. Does that sound like a good approach for everybody?
Yes.
So I think Don was looking at availability of room and stuff like that and may have a couple of dates for us to consider. Do you still have those? Yeah.
What we were looking at, and I apologize, I'm going to
That's
get
all
my
right.
screen a little bit better here so I can see things. And let's look at. Of course, I can't find the proper room.
While he's looking, I'll just say, the more I thought about it, the more I really came away. Yeah, I do kind of want more info on dispo partners. That would be helpful with this.
So looking at this room here, we do have, looking into September, we have Friday the 12th open. We have Tuesday the 16th open, or Monday the 15th as well.
So if we were to look at that week, so that week is, let's see, so Friday the 12th. What'd you say, Monday the 15th? Or Tuesday the 16th? When I look at my schedule, the only hard part is the morning of Tuesday the 16th. The afternoon works, but the other dates look fine for me. What is everybody else seeing on their calendars?
I am out of the country those days.
All of them. Okay.
And returning the 17th.
That's
So
not good.
good for me, just not good for the.
No, that is amazing. That's great for you.
Friday the 12th works for me. Mondays are just really tough because that's when our trial calendar is, and it's just a really busy day.
Yeah.
But I could make Tuesday work as well.
Don, are there any dates the following week so that we could try to?
Looking at the following week, the 22nd, 23rd, 25th, and 26th are open, and this room is open.
So I'm on vacation the 22nd and 23rd. I can make the 25th and 26th work.
26th for me. We have a conference then.
No 26th for you?
No, 26 does work, but not 24 or 25.
26th is fine for me, or 25th.
20. How about the folks online, 25, 26? Do those work for you guys, either of them?
26th is better, but yep.
26 is
I
better?
can do the 26th in the morning.
26 in the morning?
Mm-hmm.
All right. I like that too. What does morning mean to people? You have to drive. Is like
Whenever works for me.
is like a 9 a.m. doable for you, or is that too much of a drive in the morning?
Probably that would be 10's better.
Huh? Oh, that'd be good.
Not
10's better.
Oh,
10.
10 is better. 10.
You got 2 hours?
Like 10 to 12.
Yeah.
On the 26th is a good starting point.
That works for me.
All right.
Maybe not bad to have this meeting a little bit more than a month from now, because there's still people trying to get on, and now we can give them a date and they'll know. As we get up, add more people on, there'll still be time for them to hopefully clear calendars or do something.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
As opposed to like if it was September 12th,
Yeah.
it might be, end up being 2 weeks for some of these folks,
Yeah. That's true.
especially if we want, it's kind of like we want almost everybody at that next one.
Yeah. If we can make that happen, that would be the best scenario. Yeah. And I can reach out to people individually in between now and then to, see if, maybe we can get some folks working on a few things that we can have ready for that meeting, just as that some of the introductory background stuff that we talked about. If there's anything anyone can think of between now and then that you think we really should have for that meeting, let me or Don know. I'm happy to get working on that. And I think that's all we can do today. Does anyone else have anything else? No? Well, thanks again. It was nice to meet you all. We'll see you. We'll get started here pretty soon.
One thing could be someone from the guidelines just to talk about what data they do have.
Yeah.
Since we know they'll have a lot of what we're looking for, but people may not know what they have.
Yep. Yeah. And so we have the director on the
Yeah.
task force directly. He can easily do that.
Just looking for like the low hanging fruit for that first meeting of things that can be talked about, because
Yeah.
some of that other stuff will, hopefully more brains will be better on answering those questions.
Exactly. Yeah. All right.
And Kelly?
Yeah.
We did have, Ron Latz. He just wanted to say, he jumped on to say thank you to everybody in the task force.
Oh,
Cool.
I missed that. Okay. Great.
Have a good drive to DC.
Thank you.